Hi everyone, this is Paul here for the Magdalen Centre. Today I'm doing the Science and Seasons report for the week commencing the 10th of January 2018, highlighting the key aspects taking place this week and the themes he's outlined to us for us to work with. Now, before I go into the actual aspects, just want to be clear that astrology doesn't control us. We all have free will to do as we wish. The astrology merely highlights what the general themes are, what kind of spiritual lessons there are available for us to learn, but it's entirely up to us whether we engage with the process or if we just carry on doing our own thing without much bearing of what's going on around us. So in terms of the astrology for this week, we begin as usual with the moon's passage through the signs. So we're starting off with the moon in Scorpio, and she's going to be in Scorpio until Friday. So during this time we may well find old emotional issues surfacing, we may feel old hurts coming up, and it's time for making the unconscious conscious. So it's maybe a few days where we feel emotionally charged, but if we can observe it and let those emotions go rather than clinging on to them, then it's also time for releasing the past. Now on Friday the moon will be moving into Sagittarius, so this is a couple of days where we'll be looking at the big picture or understanding the natural laws of getting an understanding at an emotional level and feeling that need for freedom, for expressing ourselves, for meeting up with other people and sharing our ideas and beliefs. And then on Sunday the moon will enter Capricorn, and this is a time where it's putting our ideas and our beliefs into practice. It's taking the notions, the visions that we've may have tapped into when the moon was passing through Sagittarius, and taking concrete actions to manifest them rather than just being a pipe dream. Now, one of the key players this week is going to be Mercury. On the 10th of January, Mercury moves out of the post-retrograde shadow, so Mercury will be fully direct now, won't be going over the same degrees that it retrograded over anymore. So this is where movement will really become, or move forward at a much faster pace. So since the second, when Uranus turned direct, all the planets have been in direct motion, but as Mercury exits his shadow, things will start moving forward a lot faster. So it's important that we know exactly what it is that we want to create or what we want to be doing, because at this time, with everything moving in direct motion, barring Ceres, this is a time where things may manifest very quickly, so we need to make sure that we're manifesting the right things, because we can either create what we want or we can create what we don't want. So if we understand or know what it is that we need to be creating for ourselves and we align our actions with that, then the next couple of months will be a period of rapid manifestation. But if we don't know what we want and we keep taking actions blindly, then we may attract or achieve or manifest the very things that we don't want. So it's very important that we set our intentions clearly and we avoid allowing fear to hijack the process. We need to make sure that we're working with faith now. A day later, Mercury exits Sagittarius and into Capricorn, and this is a time where whatever visions or beliefs we've had reviewed in Sagittarius, that we know what projects we need to make. With Mercury in Capricorn up until the 31st of January, this is a time where it's get our thinking organised, it's making sure that whatever we're doing or whatever planning that we're doing, it has concrete results, it's practical, it's aligned with our vision, but it also needs to be aligned with the universal laws. So during the next few weeks with Mercury in Capricorn, this may well help to bring discipline to the mind, discipline to the thinking functions, and this in turn will allow us to better achieve things because we'll have a more disciplined mindset as a result. Now, during this week, we've got Sun in key aspects to two or three planets. The Sun and Pluto were exactly conjunct on Tuesday itself. but we're still going to be feeling the effects of this conjunction for a few days afterwards. So for a significant portion of this week, we will still feel the effects of the Sun and Pluto's conjunction, and this is a point where we may feel that our psyche is being pulled apart. We may see our shadow side, or feel it more at the moment, because Pluto polarizes into a positive and negative camp, and then asks us to choose: do we carry on with the fear-based side of things, or do we jettison this in order to be left with the purified version of ourselves? So it's getting rid of the many false illusions that we have about our sense of self-identity. Pluto will only tolerate truth, and will split the falsehoods from who we really are, and challenge us to let go of these false sense of self, no matter how cherished it may have been for a long time. This is a period where our sense of identity itself needs to be transformed through renewing the mind and letting go of anything that's based in the past, or based in old conditioning that isn't true to who we are. So that's Sun and Pluto's conjunction taking place. Now, during this week, we will also have the Sun forming a square with Uranus, and this is going to be exact on Sunday. And this is a time where Uranus is all about change, about intuition and connecting with the higher mind, and recognising where we need to embrace change and make those changes in our lives in order to be the most authentic self we can possibly be. But with the Sun square to Uranus, we may well feel a resistance to this if someone who hates change, or finds it very uncomfortable. It's a time where we'll be challenged to change things, and if we don't consciously work on it within ourselves, we may experience external events seem to create a bit of chaos that hide that it's not the world making things happen to us, it's just the subconscious attracts events or perceives events which highlight the part that we're suppressing. So part of this time will be learning not to be, because Uranus we can either be stubbornly resistant to change, or it can, on the other shadow version of it, is being or embracing radical changes as a form of rebellion, or to be contrary, rather than it being true change where we're embracing new insights as to our sense of identity and incorporating them into who we are, rather than resisting them, so that we strip away the parts of ourselves that are based in old conditioning, and we embrace new insights of our sense of identity by tapping into the higher mind and letting intuition guide us, rather than resisting that intuitive voice inside us. It's learned to overcome the loud voice of the ego, which is based in past conditioning and wants us to stay as we are, and instead heed the softer voice of the intuition, which often speaks through images rather than words. So it's not going to be necessarily a voice in the head, but if we're getting intuitive images in our minds that it's trying to point to where part of us needs to undergo a change because it's sabotaging us or not allowing us to achieve true freedom because we're not taking responsibility for that part of us, if we can take responsibility for making the change in our lives that usually we know that we need to make a change, but we experience resistance to it. So it's overcoming that resistance to change in the first place and making the changes that we know we need to make, though it may scare us because obviously other people may not approve it, or they may not understand it. And separating our sense of identity from the crowd can feel lonely initially, unless you have a community of like-minded people who support one another unconditionally through the process of understanding who we are as individuals, and then sharing our best self with the people, so that a collective effort can be made towards self-transformation and helping other people in the same process who may be struggling and need that support from someone who can encourage them to do it but doesn't tell them who they are. It's let the person figure that out for themselves but create the right environment for it. Now the other aspect is going to be the Sun sextile to Chiron, which is exact on Monday, and this may well highlight or be an opportunity to see where wounds of disconnection undermine our well-being or lead to shadow behaviours or dysfunctional behaviours in relationships, or just on a personal level that we need to tackle. So it's a time of going inwards and looking at where do we allow old emotional wounds to disconnect us from love? Where do we hijack our connection with universal love because we may feel, for whatever reason, we may feel that we don't deserve it, and as a result of that we instead rely on substitutes for authentic connection that we feel good initially, but in the end it just makes things a lot worse. So the Sun Sextile Chiron is an opportunity to look at where our sense of identity is wounded in any way through disconnection, through shadow behaviours which are not our true self, but they're what we're doing. It's a coping mechanism, and to learn to shine the light of love on these and let them go. Let the wounds go through forgiveness, so that our sense of identity isn't based around them. We know that we're more than that, and it is possible for us to let go of these wounds and embrace a more loving sense of self-identity. Now the other change, which is on the same day, is Vesta is moving out of Scorpion into Sagittarius. So where in Scorpio it's been about dedication to transformation, making the unconscious conscious, and embracing the spiritual alchemy necessary to transform ourselves. In Sagittarius, this is the need to dedicate to a wider vision, or more all-encompassing worldview. It's about devotion to beliefs, but we need to be careful that we don't become fanatical. We don't try and force our views onto the people. It's important that we listen to each other, that we share things with the idea of sharing our truth with the people, but we're not trying to convert the other person to our point of view. We're just telling them who we are, what we believe, and we also listen to them and let them tell us what they believe and what they think, without trying to make them wrong or let them try and convert us. It's avoiding staying true to ourselves and understanding our beliefs and aligning or setting beliefs which will lead to greater freedom through allowing a more expansive version of self and a greater degree of self-understanding to arise. And it's also respecting other people's beliefs and understanding that they've lived a different life to us. We can't possibly know everything that person has gone through that has led to them believing in one thing or another. So rather than trying to convert other people to our way of thinking, it's about listening and sharing the gift of understanding. Because sometimes people just want to feel understood, and when they don't feel understood, they may cut us off, they may be abrupt. So if we can give each other the gift of understanding, of making the effort to listen to one another whilst remaining true to who we are in the process, so we don't get converted to someone else's way of being which isn't aligned with who we are. We share our understanding, we we bring an attitude of unity to it, so it's looking at or trying to see where we have common ground rather than obsessing over the differences. Because if we can recognise our common humanity, then we can overcome any polarising tendencies by recognising that this person is also a human being like ourselves. They've lived their own lives, they've had their own experiences which have led to where they are now. And if we can put aside our differences and recognise what we have in common and share an attitude of love, of generosity and kindness rather than judgment, fanaticism and fear, then we can achieve a much greater sense of peace. But we have to open our minds for this, and we also need to understand that some people aren't open to dialogue. They're not prepared to listen to any other point of view, and that is their choice. But if someone is clearly not willing to listen or not willing to honour each other's truths and is determined to claim that other people are wrong and they're right, then it's better off to just save our energy, to not really engage with this person unless we absolutely have to, and just accept that they are how they are. We don't necessarily know what's led them to be so fanatical in the first place, but if that's how they're going to be, that's how they're going to be. It's not our place to tell them what to be, because they'll just see that as a threat. So it's learning to be open-minded and be kind and tolerant with one another, but we also need to have those boundaries in place so that other people don't try and force their beliefs down our throats. They respect us and we respect them. As if there's mutual respect, then a lot of the differences can be set aside, a lot of the judgments can be released, and a much better sense of community and generosity with one another can pervade. But we have to do the work inside ourselves first and learn to overcome any tendency to try and preach to other people or convert them to our way of being, and instead embrace the power of listening, because if we're only ever talking, we don't learn anything new. If we listen, we may well learn a new concept that brings a more enlightened perspective to us and allows us to expand the mind beyond its current boundaries. So that's the useful guide for this week. There's a lot being tested, especially at the level of identity, but if we can trust that, because there's a universal flow under everything, if we trust that flow, if we avoid being dogmatic or rigid in how we expect things to be, and we just expect the best, we expect that whatever is the best outcome for a situation at this point, and let it unfold naturally, then we can avoid being pulled off centre, we can avoid being pulled out of the current, we can stay true to ourselves, we can also honour other people's journeys in the process. It's also a time for developing greater mental discipline and working on developing integrity of our thoughts. So it's a time of working on our thoughts, our words, our actions and our beliefs, and making sure that they're not being driven by our shadow side, they're being driven by the true self within. And in the process, if we can undergo this transformation within us, it can pave the way for other people to do that if they so choose to go down that route. But again, it's free will, we have to honour that and respect each person's free will, and make sure that other people respect our free will in the process, and we don't just allow other people to steamroller over us because they think they know better than we do. At the end of the day, each one of us, we only know ourselves the most. Other people will know certain things about us, but they don't know our own personal journey, and it's important that we honour our own journey and we honour other people's journey. And if we find that there's common ground that we can unite over, but through an attitude of love rather than judgment, then there's a lot of potential for us to achieve a significant transformation at the start of the year, as long as we can remember to operate from the soul rather than the ego. So the ego is just there to carry out the tasks necessary for us to engage with the world, be grounded in the world, but it's not controlled by fear. We let love be the guide rather than fear. So may this week bring you many blessings. Take care.